Okay, you've got your job offer because you've done a great job of preparing for your interview. You have practiced. You have had someone who cares about your future give you a hard time about how you answer questions. You have practiced your elevator pitch. So when you sit down, the first thing you say really sets the tone and the bar high for that interviewer to make it easy for them to hire you. You have worked on the ability to not tell what you want as a salary. You're going to say, what's the salary range for this position? And you're not going to be a loser. You've learned and you understand how to end a interview on a high note by using the 5-point method. Oh, I need to call it the Park 5-point method. Yeah, I'm a masochist. All right, so you're going to say, thank you. I'm going to work well with you and we're going to be a great team. I'm going to work well with a group and you don't have to worry about me. I play well in the sandbox. I want to move up in the company because I know this is a great company to move up in and grow with. But above everything else, I really want this job. Can I have the job? I'd love to start as soon as possible. So you're going to start strong, you're going to end strong, you're going to get the job. Now, I'm about to share with you how to pay for your college education. And it's really a process, but it's simple when you think about it. And it's important that you follow my process so you can be professional, but you can also get the raise before you even start your job. And what it comes down to is asking. Let me give you some numbers, or let me give you some cold hard facts. What a lot of companies do is when they offer you a job, they give you what's called in the the biz a sucker's job offer, which means that it's usually about 10% lower than what they would expect the market to be. And you'd be amazed at how many people take that and they don't negotiate their salary. Now, I don't care if you're a bottle washer or a CEO. If you are made a job offer for the rest of your life, you need to negotiate in good faith. Let me give you some numbers that will make your head go pow. 80% of the time, people who negotiate their salary, if they bring a lot of value to the job, get something 80% of the time. Now, if I had those odds, I'd be in Vegas every day. 80% odds, pretty daggone good. But here's the issue. Most people don't know they can, or they're not willing to step out of the box, out of their comfort zone to negotiate their salary. But you now have the knowledge to know that negotiating your salary is smart. Here's the reason why. People who negotiate their salary in good faith, professionally, are seen as better employees, especially if you're going to be in a management position. Here's the reasoning. When I talk to a lot of VPs of human resources in larger, even smaller companies, and I dig a little deeper in our conversation and I say, what do you think about people who don't negotiate their salary? They look at me and they say, if we hire someone for a management position, if they don't negotiate their salary, we start to wonder about their ability to manage people. Let me say that again. VPs of human resources, when they hire people, if they don't negotiate, they think that they're getting a bad deal because they expect now for higher people or more valuable people to negotiate their salary because everybody's offering the 10% lower than what's out there anyway. I have never in my 25 years now have heard of a company taking back a job offer because someone negotiates in good faith. As a matter of fact, it's just unheard of. I have heard of companies saying, no, we won't give you any kind of incentive or extra money, take it or leave it. But that's usually a bluff, a card game, and we'll talk about that. So now that I've given you kind of the preamble, it's really smart to negotiate your salary. Let's talk about it. You get your job offer letter, and it states, "Hey, we're glad that you're coming to work for us. Here's what we're going to pay you." Go to the next paragraph. We're going to give you a fantastic 5 days of vacation time after you put a whole year of work in. And then they go and they tell you that they have fantastic health insurance and blah, blah, blah. The problem is that they don't tell you what those costs are. And that's one of the things you've got to figure out before you have to take the job. But that's something that we're not going to look at here. What we're going to look at is two things, two negotiating pieces. The first piece is definitely your salary. The second piece is vacation. And I'm going to throw this in there because it's a great way to get something more for just an ask. And again, we're just asking, okay? It's not like we're saying, hey, you don't give me this money, we're not going to do it. That's not the way to approach this. The way to approach it is we're asking because we're worth it. So let's go back to when you gave the job description to the person who is helping you practice. And remember, you highlighted the things that you can do very well. Well, I want you to take that list of things that you can do very well, and then I want you to go do some research on Glassdoor, or there's 10 or 15 other places where you can find the average low and high salaries for a particular job in a particular part of the US. Now, I used to manage inside salespeople and outside salespeople, so we're going to use the average salary for an inside salesperson in the electronics field in North Texas, and that's between 40 and 50,000. It might have changed a little bit, but it's been that way for at least a couple of years. So let me kind of make this broad strokes for you. You want a sales job, an inside sales for electronics firm, and you get the job offer, and it's for 38,000. Okay, now remember, you just did your homework, and you know that the salary range is between 40 and 50. Actually, 10% of 40 is 4,000. They're offering you 38, which is 5% lower than what you'd expect. That's a fair offer, but you know better, right? So now you have the information, and that makes you more valuable. Now, you can't just ask for something without giving me reasons why I should give it to you. That's called negotiations 101. What you're going to do is you're going to write up a list based upon those things that you highlighted and other things, the reasons why you're worth more money. You need to have at least 10, 8 at the very onset. If you can't come up with 8 reasons why you're worth more money, this is not the job for you, or you just got lucky, okay? So you need to think of those things. And they could be something that's not highlighted on that job description. It could be that you have a fantastic customer from your previous job that you can bring to this new job, and they're worth $1 million. I would start off with that. You need to rank the reasons why you're worth more money when you write this list out. And I actually want you to type it out on a piece of paper, because you're going to reference it when you have your conversation about why you're worth more money and you want to raise, or you want more money and you're going to negotiate it. It works for a raise too, by the way. This is kind of synonymous for asking for a raise too, but you definitely want to do it before you take your job offer. You want to negotiate it. All right. This is the hardest part, okay? You have a range that you know that you can ask for, and you've come up with your list of reasons why you're worth more money. That's prioritized, from the number 1 reason down to the number 10 reason. and you are now going to call the manager who hired you. Do not call HR. To HR, you're a cog in a wheel. To the manager who hired you, you're the number one person that they picked because you knocked it out of the ballpark when you did your interview because you practiced. Now, you're going to have to practice this, okay? This is more than the 3 hours that we've talked about. Find a person who loves you and actually practices role playing, because it'll make it a lot easier if you pick up the phone and call a friend and say, hey, I'm really excited about working for you. I have a few questions. Can we sit down and talk today, tomorrow morning at 10, whatever? But you're going to call the manager that hired you and ask for a sit down. You're not going to tell them that you want to negotiate your salary. You're going to say, I have a few things that I want to talk to you about to make sure that I understand everything. Can we talk tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock? If that doesn't work, how about before lunch, after lunch, during lunch? Let's have breakfast. Don't let them try to engage you over the phone, because it's a lot easier for me to tell you no over the phone than it is when we're face to face. You definitely want to sit down face to face. Now, let's just say the person is in California and you're in Texas. You're going to be able to do that. I have told plenty of my clients to go out and go to California and sit down with someone, even if they got to pay $5,000 to get out there. If we're talking about, and this is a big job, we're talking about $20,000 or $30,000 more for negotiating, then yeah, it's worth it. So it just depends. But what you want to do, if they're not somewhere that you can drive easily, is you want to set up a video conference. And it's the same idea. You want to set up a video conference so you can see them face to face and have that conversation. And it's getting easier to do that now that, for COVID and all that kind of stuff, people are used to having video conferences and talking about weighty subjects like this. So don't let that slow you down. Also, you've got to practice this. Just like I said, it's really the hardest thing to do is just to pick up the phone and call that person to set this up. But once you do that, it's all downhill. It becomes pretty easy and it's almost fun. So trust me on this. You've got to practice that conversation where you pick up the phone, you dial a friend, and you ask for a sit down to talk about a few questions. Again, you're not going to bring this up. Now, let's just say we set something up for 10 o'clock the next day. As soon as we get off the phone, and how many times I tried to say, well, what do you want to talk about? You just need to say, again, I have a few questions, want to sit down and talk to you face to face. Let's meet tomorrow morning. Get off the phone as fast as you can. And here's what's going to happen. If that manager has any brains at all, they're going to get up, they're going to walk over to HR and say, hey, look, we got this new hire, and they're going to want to come talk to me tomorrow about the offer. I'm sure they're going to want to, what range do I have? Well, it's between 40 and 50. If you go over 50, you probably go to 52 without getting your hand slapped. But this person's got a couple of years of experience. I would expect it not to be more than 48. Okay, now the manager knows the rules of the game, but you don't. Before you go see that manager and negotiate your salary, you've got to figure out what you're worth. I'm going to give you some examples, but really, this is something that you've got to figure out. So if you know the range is between 40 and 50 and you have some experience and you're making 40 right now or 38 right now, or even 35, because a lot of people don't get raises like they should, how you're going to find your value is going out into the market and interviewing to find out what you're really worth. So let's just say right now you're getting 36. The job offers for 38. You really don't want to take that because it's not more than 10% what you're making now. But you definitely want the job because it's the right company. It's bigger. They've got more going on. So you definitely want the job. But you've got to figure out what's the minimum that you take and what you're going to ask for. Now, I think the minimum that you should ask for is whatever the site says. If the site says 40 grand is the bottom, that's really your bottom. If you want to take it for 38 because of all the things we just talked about, that's great. But don't just take the job because it's a few grand more than what you're getting now. Take it because it's how you couldn't negotiate anymore, and that's what you were offered, and they said you've got to take it or leave it. And I don't really know if I want to work for that company, by the way. Even if as a leader, if they tell you take it or leave it and you add a lot of value because of those 10 things you've come up with, maybe it's time to turn it down. So let's talk about that real quick. What happens if you turn down a job offer? If you do it gracefully, here's what happens. Every time someone I couldn't get to where they wanted, but I liked them because of the person that I picked, guess what I did if they said, Mr. Park, I'm sorry, but if you can't meet this minimum, I have to decline the job. Here's what happened. I said, okay, I really appreciate that. Do you know anybody else that might be interested in this job? Don't give them a name, all right? Especially someone that's good, that's cheaper than you. So you just say, well, no, not really. But if things change, please call me. Okay, great. I tell you what, I'll do that. Have a great life. And what I did with that resume is I put it in my desk in the folder of people who I want to hire if I find the right job for them. Don't be surprised if you turn down a job and 6 months later or 3 months later or even 2 days later, you get a phone call that says, you know what? We've reconsidered. We want to offer you X, or we have the best job for you. Why don't you come talk to me about it? I've already interviewed you. I already know you. I already might have actually made this job just for you. So it's okay not to take a job if you do it gracefully. All right. Now, you set up the time. I know the rules. I'm going to go up to 48, but you don't know that. You walk in and you've thought about this and 40 is the minimum. You're going to ask for 46. Now think about this. 46 is $8,000 more than what we offered you, because we offered you 38. So that's 22 or some odd percent more than our original offer. Don't think that that is crazy. I have plenty of students who have gotten back to me and said, hey, really thank you for the help. I got 20, 22, 15, 25%. And I'll tell you a story about my best student who had actually 33% more than what the job offer was. But the great thing is that you got to understand the rules of the game. And the rules of the game is if you don't ask for it, you don't get it. Okay? So from now on, you got to ask.